Hello. Today I'll be presenting on the ecology of Pacific Northwest salmon, specifically Chinook salmon and the ecology around them. So the genus species name, or the Latin name of Chinook salmon is Oncorhynchus tishawa, otherwise known as the Puget Sound Chinook salmon or king salmon. And it is the Pacific Ocean's largest salmon. They can reach a length of up to 149 centimeters or 4.9 feet and can weigh up to 58.51 kilograms or 129 pounds. The North American Chinook can be found as far north as the Chukchi Sea in Alaska, all the way south to Monterey Bay, California. For this presentation, I'll be mainly focusing on the Chinook salmon of the Pacific Northwest and the Puget Sound. So these salmon are androgynous, which means that in the beginning of their life cycle, they hatch as eggs in fresh water, such as in the rivers and streams and in the riverbeds of them. So once they reach a certain age, they will migrate to salt water, and then as they age in the saltwater or the ocean, they will return in the form of spawning back to where they were born. According to the Endangered Species Act, or the ESA, many populations of Chinook are considered threatened, and a select amount are considered endangered. The population of Puget Sound Chinook are a threatened species. And the ocean environment of the Puget Sound and the Pacific Ocean allow Chinook to feed on other fish and grow to their adult size. In the broadest scope, Chinook salmon provide for various economic, cultural, and ecological benefits to the Pacific Northwest, including a huge influence on various tribes and their long-held traditions. For the ecosystem ecology of Chinook salmon, nutrients, whether alive or deceased, provide numerous benefits to the freshwater streams, rivers, forests, and various plants. After returning to their place of birth, known as the action of spawning, the Chinook die. From there, the carcass provides vital nutrients to their freshwater environment. These nutrients are in the form of carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus. And not only is freshwater benefiting from the nutrients, but the corresponding riparian communities and other terrestrial organisms around the river and creeks depend on the bones of these salmon. For example, for terrestrial predators, a significant portion of their biomass relies on the salmon and meat. This relies on the meat and carcasses of Chinook salmon. And in the last stages of decay of the carcass, the nutrients of carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus are dissolved into the water, which is otherwise known as dissolved organic matter, or DOM. DOM is often taken up by algae, fungi, bacteria, protozoans of the area surrounding the carcass. There are some abiotic processes that include the entrapment of Chinook carcasses under ice or fallen trees. Specifically in the wintertime when food is scarce, the frozen salmon is a welcome food source. And in the river or creek where a fallen tree might occur, dead salmon can become trapped under them by the current. And these nutrients can then be taken up by nearby plants or organisms. On a micro scale, another important process from the nutrients of Chinook are biofilms that collect on rocks in the riverbed. These biofilms, as seen in the picture below, with the researcher scraping off that slime, brown slime, I would say, they're important for acting as the base of the food web, water purification, and bioremediation. So here I have an image portraying the various stages of the life cycle of a Chinook. as you can see up here, I have the egg process, the fry, the smolt, and the adult Chinook salmon. And then on the outer end of the ring, you'll see which predators, based on which life cycle of the Chinook, rely on the Chinook at various stages. So in the younger stages, you can see that various birds rely on the eggs and fry and smolt stages of the Chinook, as well as insects and larger birds such as the gray heron will prey upon them. And then when Chinook migrate out to the ocean and become young adults, seals, orca whales, sea lions, and fishermen will be predators. And then once the salmon spawn and return to their corresponding freshwater streams or rivers, bears will fish for them, which is one of the apex predators. And then at the very end of the life stage of the Chinook, once they die, their carcasses provide nutrients to the surrounding areas, and eagles will feast up on the washed up skeletons. So as you can see that all of these animals rely greatly on the different stages of the Chinook salmon, and they're a vital source to the food chain within the Pacific Northwest. So in the community of the Puget Sound region in Western Washington, there are many Chinook salmon can be found. There are 9 main rivers that make up the Puget Sound watershed, which include the Nooksack, Skagit, Stillaguamish, Skykomish, Snoqualmie, Cedar, Green, Puyallup, and Nisqually rivers. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and various Native American tribes have rights when observing salmon in the community of the Puget Sound. The life cycle of a Chinook salmon within the community starts in one of 9 of these rivers. A mother salmon will lay her eggs in the riverbed, where the eggs will incubate until hatching. Once the hatching occurs, the Chinook fry will become a smolt in about 1 to 2 years and will remain in the river it was born. Then once spring occurs, the migration will happen to the ocean once the smolt has reached around 3 years old, becoming a jack. Around 4 years of age, the salmon will become an adult, and by age 5 will reach full maturation. Once this occurs, the Chinook will spawn, which means to return to the river from which it was born. If the Chinook salmon is female and reproduction has occurred, then she will lay her zygotes in continuing the cycle. The Chinook salmon will reach the end of its life cycle in their river where they are born, and then they will die. Within the Puget Sound region, the Skagit River is home to a vital population of Chinook. This river sees the highest average of Chinook per spawner and is very important to the continuation of the species. So the Skagit River's success as compared to other rivers or within the river itself in Chinook population size is measured by the density of habitat factors. These factors include the measurement of the main stream, side channels, side channel nodes, braids, braid nodes, and wood jams. Negative effects to the Chinook of the Skagit River population include natural disasters, dams, channel reconnections, which divert water flow, urbanization, and overfishing. So in an experiment performed by scientists, behavior of juvenile Chinook salmon during migration was observed. The variables that were taken into consideration include the amount of shade, the habitat structure, anti-predator behavior in hatchery versus wild Chinook salmon. The results of this experiment showed that Chinook salmon that were in shaded river conditions noticed and reacted more strongly to predators in the shaded areas. This was demonstrated by slower swimming movements, indicating that they were being cautious of predators. So these findings are important for scientists to understand how the various factors that play into migration behavior, how they can play into it, and how scientists can potentially help the Chinook population. So, all in all, the ecological role of the Chinook salmon in the Pacific Northwest ecosystem are numerous. And the roles include, being sustenance for apex predators, such as eagles, bears, resident orca whales, and humans. As well as the salmon are important for the survival of many birds and insects in the microbiome of freshwater and nearby plants from their carcasses. It's also very important culturally for tribal traditions and the economy of the area. In terms of community ecology of the Puget Sound, there are 9 different rivers that the Chinook call their home. The Skagit River portrays an important ecological population model within the Puget Sound region, as most of a large majority of Chinook return to the Skagit River. Behavior ecology is observed in migration patterns of spawning Chinook, and scientists can use the findings to aid in the conservation of the threatened Chinook salmon populations. As for the Christian worldview for Chinook salmon and all animals, according to the Bible, in Proverbs 12:10, a person's character is determined on how one treats animals, and the righteous person is loving and cares for animals, while the wicked are tainted, and they show no mercy for other earthly creatures. And this scripture is a good reminder of how God calls people to show mercy onto other living organisms, just as God has shown mercy on humankind. Thank you.